Hey everyone, it's David Michael. I just woke up, so I apologize if I'm looking all more than usual and my voice isn't quite there. But I woke up this morning and I saw a lot of people posting this vinyl tag 20 questions that's going around. And I don't normally participate in these, only because not because I'm above it all, I just never seem to get around to doing them. And I found this one interesting enough where I had some time this morning and to pull some albums and answer the 20 questions. So I'm going to do that. So thank you to all those who have posted those already and kind of kicked my ass to kind of make this video. So cheers, everyone. Like I said, I just woke up. It's really dry, and I'm sorry if I'm going back to my coffee cup as much as I do. I'm going to try to keep this because this could be an hour video if I don't kind of condense things a bit. So I'm going to get right to it. The 20 questions that's going around vinyl tag. How many? The questions are right here, by the way, on the floor because I'm old and yeah. How many albums? I'm going to refer back to how many albums do I own is the first question. I'm going to refer back to a video. If you go through my videos, there's a video I posted that's a tour of my music room. And you'll see in that video there's a lot of boxes on the floor, which are now under my stairs. And I think there was 25 to 29 boxes of just vinyl that I don't have room for, that are earmarked for maybe record fairs or for trading. At one point, my wife, who was much smarter than I, that can kind of do the math much better than I by just looking at how many albums fit into a cube and he times that by X amount and how many fit in a box. There was around 9,000 at one point. But like I said, a lot of that was earmarked for other things. My personal collection, I think we're going to estimate it's about 5,000, which I've kind of promised myself I'm going to reduce down this year to maybe half of that, as that's a lot of vinyl. It's a little bit of gluttony. And I have so many thrift store finds that it kind of adds up quick. So first question, about 5,000 in my personal collection, but in my house right now, it's upwards around 9,000. So take that for what it is. Record player, I'm going to refer back to that video again. It shows my record players in more detail. But right now my main table is a Marantz 6200, running a Grado black cartridge. And my backup table was a Goodwill find about 6 months ago. It's an Akai AP100C. Fixed it all up, and it's a beautiful table for what I paid for it. It's more than a stellar backup table. So if you want to look at them in more in detail, please go back and through my videos and click on the one that's a tour of my music room, and I show them in more detail. How old was I when I started collecting? I mean, collecting is subjective. I started accumulating albums. I was about 9, 10, and that's when I started acquiring albums, whether they're through gifts or taking in bottles and doing what resourceful young kids would do. With a family that didn't have a lot of money, as my family, we weren't rich, so I had to kind of scrape for anything I wanted. So yeah, I was about 9 or 10 around there. Oldest record, I had to think about this one a lot, and I'm sure in the cavern that is underneath my stairs with all those boxes, there's some old ones. But what I have in rotation in my personal collection is I located this one. It's a 1954 USA pressing. It's a 10-inch Chet Baker ensemble. 1954 on Pacific Jazz Records. An amazing album. It sounds amazing for 1954, the quality, I mean. And coincidentally, this could have fit into a number of categories because this was a Goodwill find for $1. And I have to make notes because, once again, I'm old and forgetful. So, 1954 Chet Baker, a 10-inch Chet Baker ensemble. And you can tell I'm trying to... you all know I can ramble on and on and on, so I'm trying to blow through this one as to not have like an hour or 2 hour long video. First record, I mentioned this in another video not too long ago, but it was Billy Joel Glass Houses. And a really quick story about this one is I got this the year it came out. My parents bought me this for Christmas. And opened it up Christmas afternoon, and it was warped. And back then, a lot of people might remember that a lot of stores were closed for a while after Christmas. And I had to take, I think it was on my 4th attempt, I got a flat copy because the first 3 were all warped. Patience pays off, and I finally got a good copy of Billy Joel Glass Houses, and that was the first record I ever owned. First with my own money. It was one of 2 albums, and I'm going to show you one of them. I scraped and saved and took bottles in. I took the bus to the mall, and I bought Elton John's Too Low for Zero. And I bought another album. It was Rick Springfield. I don't mind Rick Springfield, but I'm going to show you this one. Elton John, Too Low for Zero. I loved this album then, and I loved it. I love it now. So I find it quite odd that a ballad for a 10, 11-year-old made me go to the mall. But I guess why they call it the blues. That was kind of that, and I'm Still Standing were the big songs off this album. I fell in love with that song at a young age, and that made me go down to the mall and buy Elton John's Too Low for Zero. Colored vinyl. It's on this side here, as to not step on it and wreck it. That one I had to think about a lot too. But I'm going to go with, like I said, I'm going to refer back to that video, The Tour of My Room. On top of one of my record cases or record shelves, there's a lot of Shaun of the Dead action figures. And I'm going to go with the Shaun of the Dead soundtrack. In fact, when me and my wife went on a European trip for our honeymoon 3 or 4 years ago. It was a much delayed honeymoon. We were married before that. I seized the opportunity of being in London, and we went and visited the site of, if you know the movie, the blow up building there is called the Winchester. It was a pub in the movie. It's not a pub anymore, but I dragged her there, and I did the zombie walk through the street there. I did. And big fan of that movie. And this is the limited edition pint of beer pressing. As you can see the suds, if you can pick it up. The suds, it's a pint of beer, I guess, if it's spilled on a bar top, if you can see that properly. So that's my favorite colored vinyl I own. Discount album. This was about 2 years ago now, I'm thinking. It's the very first pressing of Pink Floyd, Piper at the Gates of Dawn. It's which makes it even more rare is that it's a Canadian pressing. I think it sold a lot more copies in the UK, but it's an original Capital 6000 pressing. And I found this for $1. I think it was $1, $1.99, whatever it was, at Goodwill. Very first pressing of the very first Pink Floyd album. Prized possession. I'm sorry for talking so fast. Like I said, I'm trying to not make this too long, as I tend to do. Prized possession. I showed this one before in another video, but it's the very first T-Rex album, Mark Bolan, when it was Tyrannosaurus Rex. My people were fair and had sky in their hair, but now they're content to have stars in their brows. What a long title. This was a thrift store. It's a very, very first mono UK pressing. It has all the inserts, the original lyric sheet, the original record label Regal Zonophone, sleeve in really nice condition. I chose this one as my most prized possession because it's the most unlikely thing you think you would find in Northern Canada. It is a very first mono pressing of the very first Tyrannosaurus Rex, T-Rex Mark Bolan album. So that was just a bizarre find. And as I've stated in lots of videos before, I'm a massive T-Rex fan. So there you go. We're down to female artists. I went with Sinead O'Connor, The Lion and the Cobra. In high school, when a lot of my friends, guys did this, I'm not sure if they still do it, but might be a little bit un-PC. Guys hung photos of girls in their lockers, and all my friends kind of, my locker was the cool locker to go to because I had the ghetto blaster and the music set up. So everyone would congregate around my locker during breaks and lunchtime, as I had the tunes. And all my friends had, you know, pinup girls, you know, of the time. And I had photos of Sinead O'Connor, magazine clippings from this album. And that was my, so that's the girl I had in my locker, which was odd. People thought I was odd. But on top of that, if the album wasn't, insanely incredible, I would never have photos of her in my locker. One of the best female debut albums of all time, in my opinion. An album by a favorite band. I'm gonna choose this one, and I'm gonna try to abbreviate the story really quickly. But I chose Depeche Mode, "Songs of Faith and Devotion." Depeche Mode is one of my favorite bands. It's one of my wife's favorite bands, and really quickly, Depeche Mode. This is the album that we both agree on is our favorite Depeche Mode album. Depeche Mode is more or less responsible for me and my wife meeting. I was DJing at a club, New Year's Eve. This is all sounding very cliche. And a woman came up to the DJ booth, and my DJ partner at the time, Jason, who is still my DJ partner, the woman asked him for this request for Depeche Mode, and he pointed at me, and he said, "This is the DJ you want to talk to," because Jason knew that I liked Depeche Mode. And there was this beautiful woman. I couldn't believe she was talking to me more than, because girls will flirt with you to get their request played, but it wasn't like that. It was we had a really good conversation, and I was love struck at first sight. Cliche, but it's true. And that's where I met my wife. New Year's Eve, requesting Depeche Mode. I think I played a few Depeche Mode songs that night to make her happy. And that's how I met my wife. So I chose Depeche Mode, "Songs of Faith and Devotion," largely responsible for me and my wife meeting. Okay, impulse buy. I went with Billy Cobham, "Spectrum." I saw a lot of people posting this album on vinyl forums, and then I saw a Deep Purple documentary, which documented that last lineup of Deep Purple with Tommy Bolin and Glenn Hughes. And a lot of members of Deep Purple were talking about this album because Tommy Bolin was on this, and this is how they discovered him and asked him to join Deep Purple or audition for Deep Purple. And a lot of people I respected were posting this album, and I saw the Deep Purple documentary, and I saw this at a store, and I took a chance, impulse buy, and if you want to hear improvised guitar playing at its finest, on top of amazing, just free-form jazz with shredding guitars, please do yourself a favor and listen to Billy Cobham, "Spectrum." One of the best impulse buys I've ever bought. Gift. Once again, this could be a longer story, but I'll try to keep it a little bit brief. This was a gift twice. This is Motorhead. It's No Remorse, and it's the limited leather sleeve from 1984, if you can see the leather. My dad bought me this in 1984, 85. And my dad was really super cool that way. He was my best friend, and he passed away a few years ago. And when I moved out and I needed money, as a lot of young people do who move out, I needed to pay the rent, I wasn't working, needed to buy food. I sold a bunch of my records at the time, and this being one of them because it was worth a few bucks back then, and it is now. Yeah, and I sold it, and I always regretted it. Then my father passed away a few years ago, and I just really kicked myself for selling that album. And it's a really hard album to get, at least in the wild. It's virtually impossible. I might see it once every couple of years at a used record store, high up on the shelf with an insane price sticker on it. And then a couple of years ago, I related the story to my wife, who then saw this at, I'm not sure if it was a used record store or some kind of antique mall or something like that anyways, and she found me a copy and gave it to me for my birthday. So I got this gift. This was a gift twice, and it so happens that my best friend, my dad bought it for me, and then my current best friend for life bought me this. So it's a very sentimental album for me. Motorhead, No Remorse, which was kind of a greatest hits compilation at the time, double album, in the leather sleeve. And I hope I'm not going on too long. I'm sorry if I am. Most listened to album. I said this in another video. It has to be ABC, The Lexicon of Love. I had this on cassette, and then I got the album. But when you're young, this is 1982. I was 10, 11 when I got this. You don't have a lot of albums, so you tend to play what you have a lot. And over the years since 1982, I don't know if there's another album I've played more than the ABC's The Lexicon of Love, an album I know inside and out, and I've never grown tired of. So, most listened to album. Okay. Rarity. I'm gonna go back to Pink Floyd. This was this could have fallen into a number of categories as well. This I found this at Goodwill for 99 cents. It's the first Pink Floyd single. It's the Pink Floyd. It's the Canadian Capital Swirl of See Emily Play. I'm gonna see if you can pick that up without getting my face in the way. The Pink Floyd, and it's backed with Scarecrow. And that was from a thrift store. And top conditions can go for $200, $250, depending what the market's like at the time, and for a nice copy. And this one is stellar, amazing condition. That's the Rarity. The Pink Floyd, See Emily Play, original Canadian Capital Swirl, as they call it. Rainy Day album. I could have went with a number of things, but this is kind of stereotypical and cliche again. But it's The Cure, Disintegration. Of recent times, David Bowie's Black Star has slightly eclipsed that. I think both of these are very incredible albums full of melancholy for different reasons. But you know, for kind of those kind of albums, I have to go with The Cure, Disintegration, an amazing album that seems to fit well. Although we don't have a lot of rainy days here, we have a lot of snowy days here. So we're going to call it Rainy Snowy Day albums. That is The Cure, Disintegration. Feel good albums. I went with two. This is kind of a 2-for-1 for different reasons. The Knack, Get the Knack. One of my favorite albums. And if you put this on and you don't feel like jumping up and down, you don't have a heartbeat. An amazing, fun album all the way through. A lot of people kind of bypass this album because you see it so often, but trust me, this is the shit right here. And then I also chose the Avalanches, Since I Left You, for a whole other set of reasons. It's kind of the polar opposite of Get the Knack. An amazing, fun album comprised of electronics and samples, and the way it's cobbled together is probably one of the most amazingly constructed albums I've ever heard. So that was the feel-good albums. Nostalgic. I'm going to try to keep this story short. I could film a whole video about this story. I went for Sammy Hagar, self-titled, from I think it's 1988. I'll give you the quick condensed version. In high school, me and my best friend at the time, we skipped our high school exams to take a 4-day bus ride from Western Canada to Buffalo, New York to see the Monsters of Rock Festival, which was Van Halen, Scorpions, Dokken, Metallica, Kingdom Come. The whole reasons why we went all the way to Buffalo, that's, like I said, a whole other story. We were young kids, pre-internet. You don't know. I don't know. We didn't want to bring down cash because we were young and afraid. I think I was 16. I graduated early, so I was like 16 at the time. And we brought traveler's checks with us. It's lost in time why we did that. For some reason, the banks wouldn't cash them, but we found a record store that would cash our traveler's checks if we bought something. So we had traveler's checks in the amounts of $100, and this was one of them I bought just to be able to get some cash while we were down there. So whenever I see this album in my shelf and play it, I can't help but think of the Monsters of Rock Festival, 1988. And he was actually playing it. He was in Van Halen at the time. So that's the album I bought for traveler's checks and to get cash. Like I said, I could film a whole other video about that one. Record store day title. I went with David Bowie, The Man Who Sold the World, picture disc. That was a recent record store day. I could have picked a lot of them. This is a recent favorite one. Only because picture discs usually suck for sound quality. This one, they're making really amazing picture discs these days. This one sounds amazing. So this was a nice addition to my David Bowie collection. The Man Who Sold the World, record store day picture disc. And we're down to the last one. I can't believe, oh God, I thought this was going to be an hour long. It could have easily been. Recent purchases, and this came in the mail this morning. two recent reissues by the band Creator, a metal band from Germany. Both double albums. This is kind of that middle period of Creator. I'm trying to think of the years now. It's all lost in time. So anyways, double albums, but these were on Amazon for $14.99 pre-order. So for two of these for $30, double albums. Violent Revolution came in the mail today. Really an amazing thrash album. And Enemy of God, an equally amazing thrash album. Those were just recently re-released. I got them for $14.99 each on Amazon. Those are the recent purchases. So before my camera runs out from lack of memory, or my phone as I'm filming it on, that was the 20 questions. I'm glad I kept it within a reasonable amount of time. So before it cuts off on me, I'm going to say thank you to those who posted the video, those 20 question videos, and influenced me to kind of make this video. I hope I didn't talk too fast, and I hope my stories were okay. So anyways, this has been David and Michael from the vinyl community, and if you see this video and you like it, tag me or tag someone else and make your own. I'd love to see them. Take care, everyone.